That dream of a personal computer really came true. It was fun to do that. I worked night and day doing it. I met Melinda, another employee there, and married her. Now have 3 wonderful kids. But also the success of Microsoft, I owned part of Microsoft, that became very valuable. Huge numbers. And if I had not given that money to my foundation, I would today have more money than anyone else on the planet. I still have a lot because I haven't put it all into the foundation, but that is the plan.
Bill Gates, the extraordinarily successful American business leader and philanthropist, one of the best-known entrepreneurs, who started a business out of a tiny space, and it grew into one of the most powerful companies in the world, Microsoft. One of the wealthiest men on the planet, with an estimated net worth of over $100 billion, but also one of the greatest minds. After spending 13 years as the world's richest man, he now spends his time and energy on tackling global poverty and dedicates his efforts in philanthropic endeavors such as climate change, global health and development, and education. After revolutionizing the tech industry, Bill Gates has become a tech billionaire legend. Talented, driven, a bold achiever with a long-term vision, determined to make a significant positive impact in the world by helping the poorest countries. Bill Gates is an example. This man cares about those in need and is fighting for great causes. Follow the journey of one of the world's greatest leaders, from his early days as a quiet computer programmer to the multi-billionaire philanthropist he has become today, and whose social and political impact on society is deep. They are masterminds, ambitious, competitive, and ruthless, not afraid of failure, dedicated to their mission of bettering the world, always reaching for excellence. They lead by example. Unlike many industries, the tech billionaires are mostly self-made. It is through their genius that they revolutionize the industry, and together, they change the world. Join us in this series as we take a look at some of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the modern world. The tech billionaires: Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos. Together, they're worth a collective of more than $900 billion US. They will be remembered in history as the most influential people Bill Gates was born William Henry Gates, Jr. on October 28, 1955, in Seattle, Washington. He grew up in an upper-middle-class, loving and supportive family, with his older sister, Christiane, and his younger sister, Libby. Their father, William Henry Gates, Sr., was a Seattle attorney, philanthropist, and co-creator of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His mother, Mary Gates, was a schoolteacher and devoted her time to helping raise the children and working on civic affairs and with charities. Gates was a relatively privileged child. His parents encouraged all 3 children to be competitive and strive for excellence. He excelled in school, showed early signs of competitiveness and intellectual achievement, and quickly gained a fascination for computer language. At 13, he wrote his first software program while at Lakeside High School and met Paul Allen, an encounter that would change his life. Leaving his family at 17, he moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and enrolled at Harvard University in 1973, originally thinking of a career in law. but he would change his plans later on. There he met Steve Ballmer, who encouraged him to have more social life. Introvert and often ridiculed as a nerd, Gates was very much into reading and declared himself that he was antisocial. He only dated on rare occasions and made sure whoever he was dating had scored, like him, a high SAT grade. His mother was deeply disappointed when 2 years later he dropped out of Harvard to pursue his own mission and start his own computer software business with his high school friend Paul Allen in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But little did they know it would end up changing the course of history and the computer industry. The now multi-billion-dollar giant tech company would propel Gates to success, making him a millionaire by age 26, the youngest billionaire at 31, and one of the richest men in the world. With the ambitious goal of placing together a computer on every desk and in every home, together, they founded Microsoft.
Well, we're continually trying to make the computers easier to use. I mean, the idea is that eventually everyone will use a computer as a very important tool. It was interesting for me. I met a lot of other kids who were good at math. Guy hung out, and that was fun. But I was still kind of dreaming of the idea of a personal computer. So in 1975, I dropped out of school. I don't recommend it. But I left Harvard. I went on leave from Harvard and started Microsoft.
Gates later moved the company to Bellevue, Washington in 1979, closer to where he grew up. Although it started on shaky grounds, by this time, it was grossing approximately $2.5 million. At the age of only 23, Gates placed himself as head of the company. He led with a keen business sense and personally reviewed every line of code the company shipped, often rewriting code himself when it was necessary. In November 1980, the world's dominant computer maker IBM was looking for software that would operate their personal computer and approached Microsoft. Legend has it that at the first meeting with Gates, someone at IBM mistook him for an office assistant and asked him to serve coffee. Gates expertly manipulated the larger company so that it became permanently dependent on him for basic software. Following the development of software for IBM, between 1979 and 1981, Microsoft's growth exploded. Staff increased and revenue shot up from $2.5 million to $16 million. As the company grew, Gates transitioned from a manager role to an executive. In mid-81, he was appointed president and chairman of the board. Allen was named executive vice president. By 1983, Microsoft was going global with offices in Great Britain and Japan. An estimated 30% of the world's computers ran on its software. The competition was high as the computer industry was growing with companies like Apple and Intel. But he saw it as a good thing and used it as fuel to keep improving.
Well, we've had competitors at every stage of our history. One of the big things for us was IBM saying they'd put us out of business with OS/2. OS/2 isn't as well known today as it was when that was said. Ashton Tate was big in database, Novell in networking software. And so when new competitors come along, it's great for consumers.
He even values competitors like Google.
Great to have Google out there. It's really pushing us on the internet search. We enjoy that. Fear's not the right word, but the value of competition and the enjoyment and the visibility that brings, that's great.
Using various business and marketing tactics, Gates was working hard to make sure the Microsoft software stayed on top.
The work we're doing is, it's not like, we're doing the same thing all day long. We go into our offices and think up new programs. We get together in meetings. We go out and see end users. We talk to customers. There's so much variety, and there's always new things going on. And I don't think there'll ever come a time when that would be boring.
Despite the success of Microsoft, Gates never felt totally secure, and he had to demonstrate a strong dedication to his business. Always checking on the competition over his shoulder, he developed a drive and competitive spirit and a confrontational attitude. He became a solid business leader.
When we were small, we couldn't do these advanced research things. And so we're stronger today than ever because we have the research lab in Cambridge. We've got a research lab now in China, one in India. And that's where the tough problems in computer science are going to be solved. That's why Microsoft's got such a great future, because we're looking into how to do that speech recognition or visual recognition, things that people have talked about for a long time. We're actually doing it, and that's because we're a company that takes a long-term approach. We've got these great researchers, and in this next decade, all of those tough problems will be solved with software.
His intelligence allowed him to see all sides of the software industry, from product development to corporate strategy.
I enjoy working with the people, talking about what we're going to get done, getting real excited, making sure that the structure is there, that the ideas get measured properly, and really leading the company. That's exciting.
Right around the same time as Microsoft, another company was built, the revolutionary Apple. Its CEO, Steve Jobs. It was a natural catalyst for their rivalry, and it actually spurred their success. Though their love-hate relationship is legend, Microsoft and Apple shared many of their early innovations, and they weren't always enemies. In 1981, Apple invited Microsoft to help develop software for Macintosh computers.
Well, we've always had lots of competitors. You know, there are a lot of great companies in this industry. It is becoming more software-centric. That is, if you take, why is the Xbox 360 doing so well, or why are other people's things doing well? It's that software capability. And that's a bet that we made at the beginning of the company, that software would be fundamental. We're the company that does the most advanced research in software, and so we think that's going to pay off very well for us. But we love the competition. Some areas like the tablet or interactive TV, we're kind of out on our own. Other areas like search, people see that someone else has done a good job, and we can surprise them by showing that we can match and go beyond.
It was through this knowledge sharing that Microsoft developed a new system. On November 20th, 1985, Microsoft launched Windows, which looked visually very similar to the Macintosh system introduced 2 years earlier by Apple. Windows used a mouse to drive a graphic interface, displaying text and images on the screen. This differed greatly from the operating system, developed by Microsoft, where all text formatting showed on the screen as code and not what actually would be printed. In March 1986, Gates took Microsoft public with an initial offering of $21 per share, making him an instant millionaire at age 31. Over time, the company's stock increased in value. Just a year later, in '87, Gates became a billionaire when the stock hit $90.75 a share. Since then, he's been at the top, or at least near the top, of Forbes' annual list of the top 400 wealthiest people in America. By the start of the 90s, he'd become the PC industry's ultimate kingmaker. In 1999, with stock prices at an all-time high, Gates' wealth briefly topped $101 billion.
I feel very proud of the record of our industry in serving customers. It's really breathtaking, the power that you get for very little money. Any industry where somebody can start a company from scratch and in less than 4 years sell that company for $10 billion, that's an industry of opportunity. There are more new startups, more new jobs being created in our industry, more new competitors to Microsoft being formed now than ever before.
It should not be surprising that one of the wealthiest people in the world has an insanely extravagant high-tech home. In 1997, Gates and his family would move into a 66,000 square foot, $54 million massive mansion that he spent 7 years building on the shore of Lake Washington. The property is loaded with high-tech details. It features screens showing changeable artwork and speakers hidden behind wallpaper, allowing music to follow you from room to room. It even has a sand beach and a swimming pool with its own underwater sound system. The estate he dubbed Xanadu 2.0 is so big and famous, it has its own Wikipedia page. But all of this didn't come without ambition, efforts, and perseverance. Bill Gates always kept a strong will and kept being smart. Gates also had to overcome his fears to launch Microsoft and make it a success. He had to overcome challenges by eventually learning how to delegate. Before Microsoft became a success, he struggled with self-confidence and actually feared that his business would be a bust. In fact, his first attempt to build his first ever business, TerraPower at 17 years old with Paul Allen, was a fail. But it would be the early steps of what would ultimately become Microsoft. Even though TerraPower wasn't a roaring success, it was seminal in preparing us to make Microsoft's first product a couple of years later, explained Allen some years later. His confidence was also broken many times as he watched companies he idolized fail. Gates' anxieties persisted, but his early days taught him a vital lesson. Things are risky, and you better not miss a turn in the road. He realized that feeling challenged early in his career helped him be successful. Later on, Microsoft had to settle several lawsuits after being accused of becoming a monopoly and using anti-competitive practices. They had to pay a devastating price. In 1987, Gates, then 32, sat next to the young and bright Melinda French at a business dinner party in New York City. She was a 23-year-old Microsoft product manager. The pair was a perfect match. On January 1st, 1994, Melinda and Gates were married in Hawaii. They had 3 children. Following the devastating death of his mother to breast cancer just a few months after their wedding, they took some time off in 1995 to travel and get a new perspective on life and the world. Following the footsteps of his mother and with Melinda's influence, Gates started to gain an interest in becoming a civic leader and a philanthropist. In 1994, the couple established the William Henry Gates Foundation. In 2000, the couple combined several family foundations and made a $28 billion contribution to form the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, based in Seattle. It is reported to be the largest private foundation in the world, holding around $50 billion in assets. It is dedicated to supporting education, world health, and reducing extreme poverty across the globe. The foundation is controlled by its 3 trustees, Bill and Melinda, and American investor Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in the world today.
I think our view of the foundation really is we got started in 1993 when we started to see the need, that the need was so great. And the foundation starts with the premise that no life on this planet is more important in one place than on the other. And so when you take that basic premise and you say there's so much going on, so much need in health today, we had to start now. We would have been convenient to wait till we were 60 to start to redistribute the wealth, but disease doesn't wait. And so we decided that now really is the time for us to start. And I think you could also say that he has a lot of dreams for the foundation. When we look at health, a dream of an HIV vaccine is a huge dream for us as a couple, something we'd like to see. Or microbicide, which is a gel that a woman might be able to use someday to prevent HIV/AIDS. I think we have a lot of dreams in terms of what kind of scientific tools can do for people in the developing world.
In 2000, Gates stepped down from Microsoft CEO, turning over the job to his childhood friend, Steve Ballmer. Though he remained chairman of the board, he preferred to concentrate on what was for him the more passionate side of the business. In 2006, Gates further announced he was transitioning himself from full-time work at Microsoft to devote more quality time and energy to the foundation. In the meantime, he reached milestones with the launch of Microsoft Windows Vista in 2007, whose new software allowed people to interact in new ways.
This is a special occasion. We've worked hard to build a new software platform, and we're so excited to see what people are going to do with it. In 1983, Microsoft introduced the very first version of Windows. That was 24 years ago. And at the time, PCs were not very powerful. There was a lot of question of whether graphics interface was something that made sense at all. People were skeptical about whether programmers would learn to be able to build applications that were very different, since the user could interact in a variety of new ways. And it took a long time for that to be well accepted.
That same year, Bill and Melinda were ranked the second most generous philanthropists in America, after Warren Buffett. They are working hard together to give their wealth back to society, planning to eventually donate 95% to charity.
It's my responsibility, I feel, to take these resources of society that I've gotten and give them back in the most impactful way. And that's what's led to the creation of the foundation that my wife and I run. Kind of amazingly, my friend Warren Buffett added a substantial part of his resources to that as well. And so just like at Microsoft, the foundation has taken on very ambitious goals. We want a vaccine for tuberculosis and malaria. We want to reduce all the childhood deaths that happen in these poor countries that really isn't visible to the rich world, and the rich world hasn't put enough energy into that. And so it'll take decades to do that. Very similar to my work at Microsoft, working with smart people, being optimistic, giving them lots of resources. So I'm thrilled I get that chance, and that's the responsibility I have as somebody who's gotten the wealth that Microsoft generated.
But Gates makes it clear, fame is not his goal.
Well, I don't need to be remembered at all. My wife and I have decided that our foundation will spend all its money within 20 years of when neither of us are around. So we're not trying to create some perpetual thing. Well, none of the people who are at risk of polio know anything about me, nor should they. They are dealing with day-to-day life, and the fact that their child might get crippled, we just need to get rid of that, and then we won't have to talk about it.
On June 27, 2008, he gave a teary farewell to Microsoft on his last full day at the company. "There won't be a day in my life that I'm not thinking about Microsoft and the great things that it's doing and wanting to help," said Gates, wiping away tears as the employees rose to give him a standing ovation. Leaving behind a life's work developing software to devote his energy to fight poverty in the world, Gates went on to create greater things. He still works on special technology projects at Microsoft. In February 2014, Gates stepped down as chairman of Microsoft in order to move into a new position as technology advisor. Longtime CEO Steve Ballmer was replaced by Satya Nadella. Over the next few years, Gates' involvement with the foundation occupied much more of his time interest.
When we were engaged, Bill and I talked about the fact that this wealth would go back to society. And again, because we both came from families who were deeply involved in volunteerism and giving back, it was just a natural. So I would say the converse has been true for us. One of the most fun things has been Bill now getting to spend full time on the foundation. We were already, obviously, the last 10 years working collaboratively on the foundation, but now that we can do it full time, we're all the more excited and passionate about working together.
With his foundation, Gates is committed to saving lives, reducing sickness, to lifting society up and making it self-sufficient and stable. In low-income countries like sub-Saharan African and Southeast Asian countries, Gates knew that people were still dying at an alarming rate, mostly from illnesses that could easily be treated with basic medicine. It was common sense for him that basic needs in poorest nations like Ethiopia and Rwanda have to be taken care of first for them to reach a stable state. It all started in 2000, when, among others, the foundation decided to build institutions that would support a wide range of public health projects by leading campaigns and granting aid to fight transmittable and deadly diseases such as AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, known as the 3 biggest killers in poor countries. Vaccines, the miracle technology. The one project that makes him the most proud has been creating widespread immunization programs. In his fight against disease, he states that big breakthroughs have been made, and they've shown that hundreds of millions of children's lives can be saved by innovations like new vaccines.
It saves children's lives. When you say there are 8 million children who die every single year, many from vaccine-preventable diseases, and we know we can tackle those diseases, it makes me excited about getting those tools out to mothers so that they know they can raise healthy children.
The need to get them out into the developing world is greater more than ever before. But it is not an easy journey, and the results don't come automatically. It seems that it isn't enough just to develop powerful medicines. They have to reach the people who need them, and it often means getting medicine to remote villages and war zones. Over the past decades, Gates and his wife Melinda have invested $10 billion into organizations that do this challenging work, including 3 big ones: Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the Global Fund, and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. He claimed that it was the best investments they had ever made. In 2016, Gates and former UK Chancellor George Osborne pledged £3 billion to help fight against malaria. The cost of a path to a polio-free world has exceeded $10 billion. But since Gavi was founded, the number of children under the age of 5 dying in low and middle-income countries has dropped by about 40%, and they immunized 100 million children in 2018.
Well, I'm very lucky. I get to go out and see that now that all the world's children are getting these vaccines, that's making such a difference. Before the UK and our foundation founded Gavi, kids didn't get these vaccines for diarrhea and pneumonia, and the deaths were twice as high. And so I wish all the British taxpayers could go out into these countries and see what's gone on with the different diseases and see that impact, see that polio is literally on the verge of eradication, so that instead of 400,000 children a year being paralyzed, now we'll get that number down to 0, and we'll save all that preventative treatment. That's really quite phenomenal, and I don't think people understand it's their aid generosity combined with good delivery systems that has led to this phenomenal result.
Meanwhile, polio cases have almost disappeared. More recently, in April 2018, Gates announced that he was teaming with Google co-founder Larry Page to provide $12 million in funding for a universal flu vaccine. Although some questioned whether $12 million would be enough to spark any real medical breakthroughs, others praised the intentions behind the investment, while Gates indicated that there could be more to come. Gates also supported the development of drugs and vaccines for livestock diseases, so that the growing population can be fed properly.
And the benefit of that is that these societies become stable, they can take care of themselves. So it's an investment in the future, whether you care about terrorism or epidemics or perhaps most importantly, the humanitarian benefit. A lot of countries are continuing to increase their aid, and that's a fantastic thing. There's a few like Italy that need to be called out because they're cutting their aid, and that's hurts the poorest because these dollars are very, very impactful. We've got to have health systems everywhere so that we can see pandemic diseases getting started and stop them early. With Ebola, we were lucky. It didn't spread as fast as diseases that we'll face in the future. And so having those health systems there is protecting health of even the rich countries. The kind of stability that we need so we don't have civil war and we feel like you have huge migration crises, we have to send the army in. If you can do that by improving agricultural productivity, that's a fantastic thing. Even though there's a big drought in Ethiopia right now, because of the increased agricultural productivity, it's largely been able to feed its own population because the productivity in the West is now helping out there in the East. And so this constant improvement in food production, education, health, that means that the risks coming in from all these other places will be greatly reduced.
He committed $40 million to GalvMed to continue its work on preventing livestock diseases and improving quality of food and nutrition. Gates believes that health systems need to be everywhere to prevent diseases and reduce risk. Helping poorest countries benefits the rich countries too. For him, philanthropists have a duty to tackle hunger and better health care in these countries, as they are totally dependent on such donations and generosity. He raises awareness about the importance of raising money to fix such issues. However, while calling for continued improvement in international aid development, he states that we need to acknowledge the progress made so far.
It's good news that you can actually get rid of a disease, that you can cut childhood death in half, that we can take that malnutrition, which holds Africa back, and solve it by helping them grow more food. British Aid is achieving incredible results. Everyone in the field working together, we learn, we see the biggest successes, we follow on from that. So it's a very dynamic business, but when we say how many children are surviving, what we've done with malaria, neglected disease, the progress has been phenomenal. Childhood death has been cut in half. Now we want to cut it in half again, but that's quite an achievement.
The progress on HIV is perhaps, according to him, the most astonishing. Since the Global Fund was created, deaths have fallen by more than a half.
It was when I started coming to Africa regularly for the foundation that I got to know Nelson Mandela personally. AIDS was one of the first issues our foundation worked on, and Nelson Mandela was both an advisor and an inspiration. But Nelson Mandela was concerned about the future. He believed people could make the future better than the past. And so that's what I want to focus on for the remainder of my talk. What can South Africa become? What can Africa become? What can the world become? And what must we do to make it that way?
Gates saw that there was a possibility for improvement and innovation, and he believes in the economic potential of countries with high levels of malnutrition to do more to tackle the problem. By pooling the funding from donors like the US and UK, he's working hard to make sure that medical aid has a great continuous impact, and he keeps making sure the resources are there to produce pioneering work. In 2017, the foundation launched the first of its annual Goalkeepers Report, which examines the progress made in important public health areas, including child mortality, malnutrition, and HIV. For Gates, it is important that money goes where the great scientists are. the UK is a fantastic place to back science. He claimed the US and the UK are where the best science can be found today, which is why he has invested more than $1 billion in their research and institutions. He praises the UK for its commitment, saying it sends a great message, and he gives a sense of engagement with the world, of optimism, and a belief that their approach can make a huge difference.
Since I've been involved in health and development, the UK has maintained its commitment to helping people in low-income countries. Not only that, but you have set the standard for being strategic about how you help. You are innovative and rigorous about getting the highest possible return on your aid investment. So if you put these two trends together, innovation and generosity, you get world-class Scottish agricultural science helping hundreds of millions of the poorest people in the world transform their lives. In the United States, I take every opportunity I can to make the case that foreign aid is both the right and smart thing to do. I follow the UK aid debate closely, and I am convinced that the same arguments apply here. UK aid is good for Britain and good for the world. I wish more people in your country and mine could see the results. There are so many incredible institutions here that are both inventing these drugs and vaccines and are really gaining the experience. You know, this country is making a huge difference.
His attentions come from a greater vision and hope for a better present and future. He once declared, "We have to find a way to make the aspects of capitalism that serve wealthier people serve poorer people as well."
British government is very generous in this, and I think when taxpayers see that it's money well spent, that it can achieve a goal like this, that they are willing to have a few percent of their taxes go to these causes. And Britain is a great partner in this, and the UK government is to be thanked that as they've made trade-offs, helping the poorest in the most effective way was something that they were able to preserve. And that set an example for other governments on aid generosity. Certainly the U.S. is going to be big on this polio campaign. It takes actually billions of dollars to get this done. My foundation will be a big giver to this, but we'll have, I think, 16 different countries that are backing it, and the British voters should be proud of their participation in something important like this.
Gates is contributing to society in a major way. And it doesn't stop here. He also invested $50 million in 2017 in Alzheimer's research. And the foundation also tackles domestic issues, such as helping students in the United States become college-ready by granting funds to learning institutions and libraries and supporting scholarships at universities. He also has plans of building a smart city in Arizona with futuristic infrastructures and cutting-edge technology, in which he invested $80 million. Gates is also fighting climate change. He has urged governments and the private sector to invest in research and development to make clean, reliable energy cheaper. He's invested $2 billion of his own money in clean energy innovation. In 2018, Gates was heartbroken by the passing of one of his oldest and dearest childhood friend and Microsoft co-founder, Paul Allen. The brilliant technologist and philanthropist had left Microsoft in 1983 after a falling out with Gates and Steve Ballmer. He died of cancer at age 65. Without him, Gates believes the largest software company in the world would never have existed. Even though Gates led Microsoft to where it stands today, Allen played a crucial role in creating the company. Their relationship throughout the years was tumultuous. Alan recalled one day overhearing Gates trying to reduce his stake in Microsoft. But the plan failed as he hanged on to it. However, their relationship mended. Gates stood beside him during his cancer treatment. He was everything you'd want from a friend, Alan wrote in his memoir. Surround yourself with the right people and you can accomplish great things, is the lesson Gates has learned from their friendship.
A more difficult pathogen could come along, a form of flu, a form of SARS, or some type of virus that we haven't seen before. And so asking ourselves, are we as prepared for that? We don't know it'll happen, but it's a high enough chance that one of the lessons of Ebola should be to ask ourselves, are we as ready for that as we should be?
In a TED Talk from 2015, he foresaw the future when he urged the world to prepare for war against a global pandemic. After years of warning that the world was not ready, he saw his ominous words come true with the outbreak of the coronavirus in 2020. In March 2020, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation teamed with the Wellcome Trust and MasterCard to pledge $125 million toward efforts to curb the outbreak. And Gates revealed that his foundation was prepared to invest billions of dollars into building factories for the development of a vaccine. On March 13, 2020, Microsoft announced Gates definitely left his board positions at Microsoft to dedicate his efforts in philanthropic endeavors. In September 2020, his father passed away, leaving Gates with a painful feeling of grief, but also gratitude. He said that his generosity, wisdom, empathy, and humility has had huge influence on people around the world, but mostly on him. Gates looked up to him and wrote a note remembering his father. He was everything I try to be. I will miss him every day.
And, so that's exact things. And in fact, in the latest drought, where Ethiopia had less rains than those needed to go in, was actually very small.
Bill Gates has received numerous awards for his philanthropic work. Time magazine named him one of the most influential people of the 20th century. It also named Gates and his wife Melinda, along with rock band U2 lead singer Bono, as the 2005 Persons of the Year. He was knighted as an honorary Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire, bestowed by Queen Elizabeth II in 2005. In 2016, the couple were again recognized for their philanthropic work when they were named recipients of the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Bill Gates has a vast fortune, but he's fighting to make the world a better place by making good use of his money, investing in the right places, and into organizations he believes in. He and Melinda are now renowned for their outstanding charitable work. They have succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. The impact Bill Gates has had on the tech society is undeniable. The impact of his foundation is phenomenal. Aid has made a huge difference. From a loner schoolboy dropout to multi-billionaire tech giant, Bill Gates has had a long journey, and it is not over. At 65 years old, and with a hope of making a positive impact in the world, he continues to use all the resources in his power to end poverty and suffering.
Our foundation wants to do its part, and so I'm pleased to announce to you that we're pledging an additional $1 billion to...
From him we learn that time is valuable and is necessary to move fast. He strives for continuous innovation. With ambition, persistence, and perseverance, he shows us that we can achieve great things. Success didn't make him arrogant, but wise. He remained humble, claiming from a young age that he is not a genius. His optimistic and confrontational attitude, his determination and patience makes him a great example. Bill Gates has made an impact on millions of lives, and his accomplishments are meaningful and significant. If his goal was to place a computer in every home, we can probably say that he has reached it. In 2015, there were more than 1 billion PCs worldwide. If his other goal was to push others to be ambassadors for a better world and save lives, we can say that he has reached it too. So, we can salute Bill Gates for his contribution to the world and his remarkable journey, as he will probably go down as one of the most successful and influential people of the 21st century.